Today I want to cover, this is one of the most interesting things in a while, but Hunter Biden has been interviewed, which is very interesting in one sense because I remember Joe Rogan talking about a while ago that he wanted to interview him, but basically none of his handlers would allow him to go on there. And probably for good reason, because this was kind of like right in the middle where he was getting caught for, there's a whole scandal about him with crack, cocaine, and there's cocaine found in the White House, and there was the whole tax evasion thing where he was getting paid like $2 million for a painting, which was not even, it was just a whole thing going around it. But Joe Rogan was kind of playing with the idea of having him on, and then all this stuff started happening, and his handlers were like, no, like he can't come on your podcast. So finally he's come out. Now he's been on a couple different podcasts or news shows or whatever, but I want to cover Breaking Points, which is right versus left news aggregation where they kind of cover the news of the day, but they covered the interview with Andrew Callaghan on Channel 5 News. He got an interview with Hunter Biden, which I will just say my viewpoint on it, because I actually watched the whole thing. It's pretty long, so again, I'm just covering a condensed review of it and then giving my thoughts on it. But if you have not watched it, it is insane, the things that he talks about. And I watched the whole thing because I think it's interesting to get a mindset on where he was at, because I think there are a lot of things that for me, I want to see how he is going to frame some of the things that I thought were just frankly insane. Obviously, how he talks about his laptop, how he talks about his dad, who I think has been mentally compromised since the 2020 election. I thought he was too old to run then. And that's not a statement on the left, attacking the left, because I think Trump is too old now. And I think, again, there's just gerontocracy within our entire political system, and it needs to all be swept out. But I wanted to see how he was going to talk about it and how he phrased it and how, what his cope was. And it is wild. Again, if you have not seen it, then I'll probably talk about it a little bit later during this video, because I think they touch on that point. But it was just, again, very illuminating, and listening to the things that he is talking about, just kind of, it's good to listen to just to get an idea of like where he is at and how his mind works on these things and how he tries to explain some of the things away. But anyway, I will not hold it up any longer. We'll get into Breaking Points, reviewing it, and kind of the things that they think, and my thoughts on some of the things that Hunter Biden had to say.
All right, let's get to Hunter Biden, shall we? Here we have some great highlights from Hunter Biden from his interview with Andrew Callaghan. We're going to start with my personal favorite clip of Hunter reminiscing about the joys of crack cocaine, describing in detail how easy it is to cook, and also how it's actually safer than alcohol, because when you make it, you cook off all of the impurities. Let's take a listen.
The only difference between crack cocaine and cocaine is sodium bicarbonate and water and heat. Literally, that's it. Anyway, I don't want to tell people how to make crack cocaine, but it literally is a mayonnaise jar, cocaine, and baking soda.
How different is
Just right there. I don't want to tell people how to do it, but here's exactly how you do it, which is like, okay, I don't care, because I'm sure you can go online and find it pretty easily, but like, you're literally saying you don't want to, and then you immediately are backtracking on that and telling people how to do it. But okay.
the experience?
It's vastly, vastly different. I'm saying I don't want to have the experience of some euphoric recall. That's how powerful crack cocaine is. Does crack cocaine make you act any differently? No. Is it safer than alcohol? Probably. People think of crack as being dirty.
And right there, just the contradiction between him first saying it's not first saying, how powerful it is, and that even thinking about the experience could send him into a spiral back down into, crack again. But oh, by the way, it's not worse than alcohol. I have never done crack. I've had alcohol. I've never been. I mean, first of all, I've never had issues with alcohol abuse. But even if I did, I could not imagine a world where I couldn't even talk about alcohol without the fear of like relapsing into some form of alcoholism, which again I've never had. That's never been my thing. But it is wild to say that crack cocaine is no worse than alcohol. But I know tons of people that actually none of my friends are really addicted to either. But I feel like there are way less negative outcomes. There are still very bad outcomes from people who drink alcohol regularly than doing crack regularly. Like I have a friend that would drink a couple a night, which could be considered alcoholism, I suppose, but I think he kept it under control, and my general bar for alcoholism is when it starts to negatively impact your life. So he functioned perfectly fine, high functioning guy, great person, versus if he was, smoking some crack, I feel like his life would not be quite as together as it is. So again, just my personal viewpoint, and from what I've observed, that's just my take on it. So again, just kind of a funny statement that he's making here.
Exact opposite. When you make crack, what you're doing is you're burning off all the impurities so that it combines with the sodium bicarbonate, which makes it smokable. That's all. All of these actors and, people in the past that talked about they had a problem with cocaine and freebasing. They were smoking crack.
Outside, somebody stood up for
smoking crack. Yeah, he's standing. What's funny? It would make sense if you had not ever seen a crackhead. Like, have anyone ever actually seen people who are addicted to crack? They don't look all that healthy to me. All right. I mean, I'm not saying alcoholics look all that healthy, but they only look a little bit bloated. They're not usually missing all of their teeth.
To give him his point, he's saying the drug itself compared to the dirty powder cocaine he's going to get on the street.
Okay, all right.
Because you're snorting that.
Yeah, no, it sounds like he's. Yeah, to me, and the way that he framed it, it sounds like he's comparing it to alcohol. But yeah, either way, sure. I don't know.
Everything you buy, you're snorting that up, and there's all kinds of junk in there.
Does cooking crack cook the fentanyl off? Can anybody see? I don't know enough.
Maybe it does
that.
Actually.
I don't know. I guarantee you're gonna have
Let us know in the comments.
That's some very interesting speculation. No idea. That would actually be, if that was true, that would be a great argument for it, but I would be highly skeptical that is actually true.
Down in the comments, you're being like, yes, absolutely, Saagar. That's why it's safer than everything. Okay, all right. But more importantly for our purposes, and to the extent that this thing is newsworthy at all, is what? This is how Hunter and the Biden family see the 2024 election. The Democratic Party and the Democratic voters were not slavishly dedicated enough to his father, and the cult of personality kicked him off the ticket. He blames Kamala for the loss and Democratic elites, and that Biden himself did nothing wrong. He was sharp as a tack. Let's take a listen to how he had to speak about George Clooney and others.
He flew around the world, basically, and the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times.
Yeah.
He's 81 years old. He's tired as shit. They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights. And fuck him. Fuck him. Fuck him and everybody around him. George Clooney is not a fucking actor. He is a fucking, I don't know what he is. He's a brand. And fuck you. What do you have to do with fucking anything? Why do I have to fucking listen to you? What right do you have to step on a man who's given 52 years of his fucking life to the service of this country? And James Carter.
And this is the very interesting part about the point that he's making here. I agree with him to the point that because it's interesting. I used to be in a group of people who would go on hikes, and I remember one time where I was talking to one of them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this actor." And the point that I made about it is like, why do you care what an actor thinks about politics? Like, sure, some of them might be intelligent, but like, they're actors. Like, they know nothing about politics. If anything, they're in a little bubble where everyone, they're in an echo chamber where they're literally just listening to the same voices, and they get more and more and more radicalized, typically towards left leaning. And so I 100% agree with his take here that, like, yeah, you shouldn't be listening to actors to form your political ideologies. Like, if you do agree with them, great, that's for you, that's on you. But, like, again, just taking the fact that you like how someone does anything, like, I like how you act, so now I'm going to take on your political views as well, is just, it's mind-boggling to me, because I think that is the worst way to form your political ideologies. Like, what I always try and tell people is, like, look at things, form your own opinions on how you feel about them, and then you can look to other people to kind of hear arguments, and then let me see how I feel about it in retrospect. If there's an argument that's made, maybe it's a really good argument and it shifts how I view things, and I can incorporate that into my idea. But let me think about how I think about it first. There's no world in which you should be going forward and just wholesale it, listening to and going along with the ideologies that some actor, just because you like the way that they basically lied to you. That's what acting is portraying a character that is not them. So I like the way that this person acts, and so now I'm going to go along with everything that they do or say. Kind of insane way to think about it. So I agree with him on that fact, right? But then the thing that I think is hilarious about it is, who are you? You literally, the only reason you're being interviewed is you are the son of who was the president. And what have you done? Why are you interesting at all? Like, what, you have no political sense. You've never been a politician. You've never been an elected official. You literally, your fame, the reason you are as famous as you are, is your laptop, your addiction to crack, hookers, taking hookers and guns across state lines. Like, literally, these are the only things that I know about you and that you're famous for, and your art, which some of it is good, but I think the more interesting one was him being paid $2 million for his art. Is it really that good? And basically, using that for tax purposes. So again, it is insane to me that, you're making this argument, which I agree with, but then why are you even being interviewed? You're no one of note by those same, even less than George Clooney, because at least George Clooney is an actor. He made it of his own accord, I guess, more or less. He got chosen, so he kind of got lucky. But that's all actors. And you're literally a step outside of, you're not even famous for your own actions. You're famous because of your father. So, why do I care? Just something interesting to think of. But I do agree with his point that, who cares what George Clooney has to say.
Who hasn't run a race in 40 fucking years, and David Axelrod, who had one success in his political life, and that was Barack Obama, and that was because of Barack Obama, not because of fucking David Axelrod, and David Plouffe, and all of these guys, and the Pod Save America guys, who were junior fucking speechwriters on Barack Obama's Senate staff, who have been dining out on the relationship with him for years, making millions of dollars. The Anita Dunns of the world.
And I'll make this point on all these basically think tanks, political think tanks, that he just listed off there. I'm not going to go through each one, but I would point out they at least have done something in politics. Again, who are you? What have you done in politics at all? You have absolutely no water that you can carry, because you have nothing to do with politics. It's literally your father. And so run for office, win something, and then I think you can weigh in a little bit more. But the other point that I'll make is you are too closely aligned and invested in your father, because, again, according to the laptop, you're basically making deals, making millions of dollars off your father's name. So it sounds like all you've done is kind of ride your father's coattails. And again, what would you know, even if it's been a long time since those people have been successful, and you can argue the varying degree to which they were successful or not. In my opinion, you're not really successful if it's basically just a swinging from one direction to the other, which I've covered in some of my other videos. So, it's probably an inevitability that all those candidates that he listed, Barack Obama, Clinton, those candidates would have won anyway. And so did they actually win, or were they just in the right position at the right time where the pendulum was swinging back from right to left and their candidate would have been successful no matter what? That's a valid argument, but at least they have some political exposure where he does not. So again, just funny to me.
Who's made $40-50 million off the Democratic Party. They're all going to insert their judgment over a man who has figured out, unlike anybody else, how to get elected to the United States Senate over 7 times, how to pass more legislation than any president in history, how to have a better midterm election than anybody in history, and how to garner more votes than any president that has ever run. And they're going to replace their judgment for his. Who's Jake Tapper's audience? Jake Tapper?
My mom or something? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. For real, though. I don't even...
And that's such a poor argument about garnering the most votes. Some of his other ones were good, right? The passing legislature, although that's part of, I think, more of an argument about the gerontocracy. But there is a fair amount of, okay, yes, at least he was able to work in a bipartisan way, although that may not be good because it seems like nowadays the only thing that we can get any sort of bipartisan agreement on is military action. So, there. But yeah, that's again, some of his points make sense, but the election one about the votes, I think it was just a very interesting situation where everyone was tired of Trump, and then COVID just happened, and then they did all the mail-in ballots for everywhere. I think there were a lot of interesting scenarios that led to that victory that you're kind of discounting some of the other candidates in the past by trying to state something. It's apples to oranges, basically.
I think it's your mom anymore.
No.
By the numbers, what influence does Jake Tapper have over anything? He has the smallest audience on cable news. The intelligentsia of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, Jake Tapper, I'm not a huge fan of either. I think there's literally a video that had come out where he's saying Joe Biden is sharp as a tack, and then immediately after the interview, he flips a switch and it is knifes out for him. And that's the reason why Hunter's so angry at him. But in general, I agree that he's a talking head. Who cares? He's on, one of the legacy media networks. And yeah, you shouldn't be listening to him anyway. But yeah, funny to see why Hunter is not a fan of Jake Tapper. And that's basically because he turned on his dad. But yeah, you probably shouldn't be listening to him anyway.
With 2020 hindsight, believes that Joe Biden should have considered not running again because of their perception that he was too old.
Not just that, man, but he also said he was only going to be a one-term president. And he was going to step in and basically win this one and then step away. So him ratcheting up to run again literally flew in the face of what he said. So to me, I find it kind of laughable that you're saying, oh yeah, he was going to run again. It's because he got in and he liked the power, and his family was basically reinforcing him and saying, we need to, we enjoy cashing in on your name too. In my opinion, that's what I think happened. And so yeah, of course, it's laughable that he's going to say oh yeah. It's so funny to me when they try and spin it this way. And it's yeah, man, that's not, we were there, we lived it. He was too old. He shouldn't have, and that wasn't what he was running on the first time anyway. It was he was going to get in and then he was going to pass it off to whoever was next. So you trying to state this and go back on it, is just kind of head scratching, because that wasn't even what Joe Biden's message was, straight from the horse's mouth.
The Pod Save America saviors of the Democratic Party, with four white millionaires that are dining out on their association with Barack Obama from 16 years ago, living in Beverly fucking Hills, telling the rest of the world what black voters in South Carolina really want, or what the women in the waitress living outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin really believes. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, I can't believe that we do this over and over again.
Yeah.
Or
the other thing that's really funny about this that I was just thinking about is like him criticizing those institutions, or the certain Pod Save America bros or whatever. Him going after them is hilarious to me, because literally just because they called his father out. Like, the problem is, if you don't go along with this, do you know how insane you/your party looks? Like, if you just kept slow walking Biden into the election, I don't know if people remember, but the polls were basically like deep blue states are looking at 50-50. Like, that's how bad the entire country was looking at this after the debate. And so just the cognitive dissonance that you have to be like, oh yeah, my dad was totally fine and he would have won and he could have even survived 4 years if he was elected. Like, the guy was gone. The guy was completely off the reservation. Like, you can't, it's just not, like, he's not there anymore. His mental facilities are failing. And this is why, I personally believe there should be, if there's a bottom limit, there should be a top limit as well. Because as you get older, I think people get insane. They lose their minds. It's just a fact of life. That is what it is. As you're living to be older and older, you're not as sharp as you used to be. And that's just, unless you're actively seeking to learn things, which he doesn't have enough time for as the president. He's reacting to things. You're not keeping yourself mentally sharp. And it just declines anyway at a certain point. I've seen it and many times where I'm looking at people and I'm like, whew, man, how did you get there? And it's rough and it goes downhill quickly. And so, the fact that he's trying to call out people who, if you wanted to completely destroy the Democratic Party where I go, I want nothing to do with any of you ever again. Yeah, just run I don't think Kamala was a great step down from it, but just run the worst candidate, and then no one, that is the best way to make sure no one ever wants to vote for your party ever again. Yeah, so that's just my viewpoint on it. And him trying to fight against them now is just kind of laughable at best.
I hear Rahm Emanuel is going to run for president. What a fucking, David Axelrod's going to run his campaign for him. That's like, oh boy, there's the answer. There's the fucking answer. Genius is all.
Okay, so first of all, there's some news there. He said it's Ambien. Now, Emily, Krystal, and I were on Emily's after party show.
Debate night. Yeah.
Right, but Emily, Krystal, and I were on after party last night, and Emily brought up a great point. Is Biden, as you'll famously recall, was cloistered at Camp David ahead of the debate and had been back in the United States for multiple days. So why were they giving him Ambien? And he would only been on a 7-hour time difference from multiple days ago. So you need Ambien for multiple days to get over. That's not a good look for an old man. And also, first of all, that.
And the other thing that I would call out about this is this could just be made up from Hunter Biden as an excuse to a poor performance, right? And so you can't be 100% certain that he's being truthful here. And the other reason I say that, the background to that, is if you listen to the entire interview, there's many things that he talks about where you're just like, that's literally not what happened. Like, you're making up your own historical facts, right? You're literally making them up. This is, I have not seen anything that has corroborated the story that you're telling us. So it could be that he literally just made that up to, oh, why was he Sleepy Joe? Why was he so all over the place and like not good mentally, a step behind. Oh, because it was the Ambien. I mean, no, I think it was his age, but it could be that he's lying about that, or it could be, what Saagar is saying here.
The news is now that they're blaming it on Ambien. It's like when, who was it? Rick Perry. Remember, he couldn't forget the third department he wanted to cut. And later on, he was like, guys, I had back surgery and I was high on Percocet. And you're like, well, what? It's like, that's not a very good excuse, actually. But broadly, look at the bitterness. Look at the bitterness towards the Democratic elites. And it's pretty ironic. Look, I'm not some pod save fanboy, but they had a job and they made their name by being attached to a winning campaign, the Obama campaign. You are the president's son. You have grifted millions of dollars off being his son. They, frankly, are way more accomplished than you. And I'm not some big James.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying here.
Carville defender or any of that, but you're not exactly the right messenger to be talking about nepotism and grifting off of other people's names, are you, Hunter? So this is the view, Ryan. The Biden family, this is what they believe, is fuck you. That's basically their answer.
And what was fun about the whole interview, but also this analysis, is that I'm with him like 95% of the way.
Right.
Like almost all of the things that he's saying, I'm like, boom, 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 boom. That's great. But it's like, A, who are you to say it? And then B, when you finish with, and therefore Joe Biden should have been the nominee again in 2024, it's like, no, I'm sorry. Like, okay, yeah, he had a good midterm. He beat Trump in 2020. There's an argument that there was a segment of like white working class voters that peeled off from Trump to Biden in 2024, and that made the difference. Okay, maybe all that's true. Doesn't mean he wasn't a dead man walking in 2024.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to win because he was almost dead.
Literally.
Sorry.
And even Hunter is.
And that's exactly my point, is I thought he was too old in 2020, but everyone disliked or hated Trump so much that they said, I don't care who the other candidate. Really, they didn't care who the other candidate was. They could have, honestly, if Kamala would have won the primary, Democratic primary in 2020, she probably would have won. But Joe Biden made it through, and then basically they just run him from there and he wins. So yeah, again, if you looked at any of the graphs, any of the polling that came out about how are we doing in the 2024 election with Trump versus Biden? Yeah, Biden was, like I said, there were deep blue states that were break even with Trump. Now, whether that is how it would have, washed out on election day, who knows? But yeah, I don't think there was any way. If it would have been Biden versus Trump, it would have been even worse of a beating than Trump versus Harris was.
Like, yeah, he's 81 years old. He's old. He aged before our eyes. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole point, man. That's the point.
Yeah, and it's like, also, if a single Ambien can take you out, from the night before, that's not a very good look for you, is it? It's one of those, look, there was so much alternative history there. There's also some great political messaging here from Hunter. Here's him on immigration. Let's take a listen.
The people.
Also, the other thing, before I move on from that, like the whole Ambien and the other thing that isn't mentioned is, did they give him any other cocktail drugs, IV, to pump him up? He's not going to, Hunter's not going to talk about that. He's not going to want to disclose that. But my guess is they probably did give him something, some sort of stimulant or whatever, to try and make him as sharp as possible to go into that debate, unless they were completely trying to sabotage it, which I would not put outside of the realm of possibilities, right? It's entirely possible that they just wanted to destroy him. But in my opinion, what probably happened is they also put him on a bunch of uppers right beforehand, got him well hydrated, got him perfect. So, sent him out there in the best way possible, and he still had that bad of a performance. So that's the other thing you have to keep in mind when you're talking about this is, okay, they may have had taken Ambien the night before, but this debate was very late the next day, so that could have, went through his body. And then B, they were probably pumping him with other stuff. And so that's not even a valid excuse. Like, you have to be able to perform. Like, there's no way that, and or you don't have the wherewithal to go out and procure some sort of, drug cocktail to give you the pop. And so, again, it's just astounding to me that, it just, there's no way to try and justify it and make it sound okay that, yes, one Ambien can completely kill your performance.
Are really upset about illegal immigration. Fuck you. How do you think your hotel room gets cleaned? How do you think you got food on your fucking table? Who do you think washes your dishes? Who do you think does your fucking garden? Who do you think is here by the fucking sheer fucking just grit and will that they figured out a way to get here because they thought that they could give themselves and their family a better chance. And he's somehow convinced all of us that these people are the fucking criminals? White men in America are 45 more times likely to commit a fucking violent crime than an immigrant. And the media says, well, you got David Axelrod and, Rom.
So we'll just go off of the, him listing out who's making your beds in hotels, who's doing your landscaping. Here's the thing about illegal immigration is that it shouldn't, I mean, I get it, right? They're trying to come here, but number one, that's a huge displacement of jobs. And there's no, I get it. If we say we want to bring people in, there's two ways, right? One, you can say, we need more immigration, we need more people, period. So let's then open it up, but we should be vetting who's coming in. We have no idea who was coming in. In all accounts, it was from all over the world. And so the issue with that is that then what you have to do is it's a vetting issue to me, right? Because if we say that we need people, then we need to bring in people, and that's it. We can't do it illegally where we just bring them in and just start shipping them places. And that's the part that I very heavily disagree with. Is if we are saying we need people to work these jobs, you need to do it legally. Because otherwise what happens is that it creates an underclass of people who are basically here because you can't do anything. You can suppress their wages, you can treat them poorly because they can't say anything or they get shipped back to where they came from. And that is awful, not just for us Americans, but for those people who are coming in and working those jobs because they have no leverage to, unionize or, step back and say, hey, I need to be treated fairly. They just have to put up with whatever. And so that is one of the issues. And then number two is that still suppresses wages. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the first, where, yeah, if you made those people, and this is why I hate the argument so much, if you made the companies who are, taking advantage of this illegal immigration, if you made them pay their fair share to the workers, yes, some of them are operating on smaller margins, but go look up what any single one of these, hotels or all the profit that they're making from this, and tell me that, yeah, okay, it's totally good for the American economy. Because what would happen is that instead of taking all those profits home to themselves, they would then have to pay it out fairly to those employees that they would have to hire. So instead of, getting some illegal alien in there and, paying them essentially slave wages to go out and, pick strawberries or whatever. Okay, well, now you have to pay someone an actual living wage. And if the job is that awful that no one wants to do it for what you're offering them, well, that's the incentive that then you have to pay them more, or it doesn't exist eventually. And so that's to the extreme, right? But the idea is if you're having an awful job, you have to pay people more to want to do that. And the only reason that the people at the top of the economy are making as much money as they are is they're able to exploit a lower subclass of basically illegal immigrants, and it suppresses the wages for those jobs. And the other part of that as well is that if it was, oh, no one wants to, go pick strawberries, okay, well, now we have to pay strawberry pickers $75,000 a year. Well, guess what? Now all the other jobs are going to have to up their wages because guess what? Now I can go out and get $75,000 a year to go pick strawberries. And before, I was just a cashier making $15 an hour. And so then you have to raise theirs because, oh, we need people to do this. And yes, it's physically easier than picking strawberries, but there is a subset of people within the working group, working age people who would rather go do that for more money than, work in some stupid retail job or, be a server or waitress or whatever, hostess or all these other jobs where you go, okay, well, I can make more money doing this. What you're doing is you're suppressing those wages, so there's a lack of competition, especially for low-end jobs. And again, it would raise the tide for all jobs. So all jobs would have to be more competitive because, hey, otherwise I could just go do this other thing. And so, it by arguing for illegal immigration, you are literally stifling American wages. That's what you're doing. And you're arguing for worse working conditions for those people that come in illegally. And I realize that's kind of a long rant, but I'm very passionate about this issue. And like anyone who argues for illegal immigration, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. Like, it is the worst idea. It's bad for both parties. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're literally just trying to take advantage of an underclass.
I'm fucking Emmanuel. Was so fucking smart, Rahm Emanuel. He said, we got to understand that these people are really mad. And we got to appeal to these white voters. Rahm, the only people that fucking appealed to those fucking white voters was Joe Biden, 81 years old. And he got 81 million votes. And he did not because he appeased their fucking Trumpian sense, but because he challenged it. But these guys think that we need to run away from all.
No, man, I think he won because everyone was sick of Trump and COVID happened and mail-in ballots. But, okay, whatever you need to tell yourself.
All values in order for us to lead. I say, fuck you. How are we getting those people back from fucking El Salvador?
Yes, fuck you, Ryan, for being concerned about illegal immigration. It's so funny, too, because even the most, open borders, left-wing people would be like, look, these are human beings. We need to reform the system to make it so that they're not illegal anymore, and we don't support the chaos of what is going on there. But Hunter just flips. I mean, look, he's like Donald Trump almost in a certain way. He also said he would invade El Salvador to get back the sea. Well, I guess they're not there anymore. The Venezuelans, they've been sent back to Venezuela. But
all of them,
he said
right?
he would be willing to invade El Salvador on behalf of it. My take with Hunter, broadly, again, to the extent that it matters at all, is that is the view of the Biden family. And I think that's very important because there's a lot of Democrats who watch the show. That's what they think of you. And that's also what they think of the voters
And what Saagar was saying there, exactly right. I agree with that. It should be reformed. Again, if we need more labor if the jobs can truly not be filled, then by all means, or, give out more work visas to Mexicans to be able to come in and do the work. Whatever it is that needs to happen, reform it, but the way that they were doing it is not sustainable at all. So, just, again, condensing the point that I was making before, but I wanted to give a little bit more explanation than just, to lay out the argument of yes, it needs to be reformed.
Screw you, you didn't have enough fealty to my dad. We don't care about the democratic process. We don't care about, he blames Nancy Pelosi and all these others for kicking his dad out of the race. He genuinely believes his dad is some messianic figure who had this unique political talent. It's maybe in 2020, but by the end, bro, all of the Democrats are like, please don't run. You remember on our show, we covered for years, 70, 80% of Democrats. He's too old. Get him out of there. He's too old, right?
And also, he stunk in 2020. Like, he beat Trump in the general election. He
Not that well.
He lost
Yeah.
that primary
30,000 votes away from losing.
until the party like basically handed it to him.
100%.
He got finished 4th in Iowa,
Yes.
5th in New Hampshire, lost 2-1 to Bernie in Nevada, and then the entire party establishment, including CNN, New York Times, MSNBC, which is what really mattered. Everybody telling him, okay, it's Biden or fascism or communism. And so you have the biggest swing in polling history. And then COVID hits and he doesn't have to campaign for the rest of the campaign.
Literally.
And that's a very good point, too. Because of the COVID, he didn't have to do... I think if he had to do more campaigns and he was out on the trail and he had to do, more... Because I think Trump shot himself in the foot in the debate where he just talked over him. If he would have let him talk, it wouldn't have been as bad as in 2024. But I think Joe Biden still would have hung himself. Because it was... I watched those debates and it was still painful. And, it was, obviously he was sharper than he was in 2024, but he was still not sharp, not even remotely. So COVID did a huge benefit for Biden where it allowed him to not have to go out and not have to campaign and not have to, and if you're old, guess what? That's a bigger boon to you than to, and how much older is he than Trump, but if you are more advanced, right, because aging affects people differently, but if you're in decline and it's harder for you to go out and do stuff because Trump's on whatever speed or whatever, then yeah, you're gonna gain a bigger advantage from not having to go out and do these things. So yes, that, and then the other thing too that I think is really important that Ryan calls out is that the basically, yeah, they all coalesce behind Biden to blow Bernie out of the water, which Bernie could have won as well if they would have let it play out the way it should have, and they all just stayed in till the very end. Well, guess what? Biden wouldn't have made it, but because they all folded in and said, yes, Biden is the one, and we're gonna, anoint him the victor. Well, then, the only thing that the Democratic Party is more afraid of than Trump is Bernie, which is hilarious and disgusting, but I think that's the truth of the matter.
That's how he won.
Right.
So let's not let Mr. Biden Jr. there rewrite it.
It's just so
it's eerie how much he sounds like him now.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And we'll all just remember yesterday was the 1-year anniversary. Let's put that up on there on the screen. I've lived 1,000 lifetimes since this moment, since Joe Biden announced that he was not running. Fun story. That was the day after my wedding.
And that statement that did not include endorsement for Kamala.
Right. It did not include an endorsement for Kamala. How many lives we have all lived since that day.
All right. Anyway, I just wanted to cover that because obviously that was some fairly interesting news that broke earlier this week with him going on, with Andrew Callaghan to have that interview. Again, I do recommend watching the whole thing, but this was a pretty good spotlight on at least 2 of the 3 things that they covered that I really wanted to kind of take a look at, which was how he viewed his father being swept out, in his opinion, from the 2024 election, but then also his take on illegal immigration, because again, that is one of the topics that I'm very passionate about, if you can't tell, because I think, again, it's just, I'm kind of a class warfareist. I really do not like the things that, billionaires and multimillionaires and, these types of people are doing to the rest of the U.S. public, because I view that as, they're basically making all their money at the expense of all the rest of us, and I think it's going to come to some really bad outcomes in the long tail of it. So, again, just wanted to take a look at these, those 2 issues, and then as well, comically, the crack cocaine stuff, but wanted to view this because I thought they touched on it. They added, their opinion, which I thought was pretty good, but then I just wanted to sprinkle on some of my thoughts as well. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe, because that will really help me grow the channel. And if you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.